This thing is flying forever. I thought of myself as a family person, loved my children, my spouse, but there was a challenge. I was very selfish. I didn't realize how selfish I was.
I was materialistic. Uh, Felt like we got that big house, nice cars, had my nice Lexus car and a nice 6-bedroom home with how many baths? Maybe 3 or 4 bathrooms in it and closets everywhere. My name is Anita.
My name is Ben McGhee, and I live in the United States of America.
I worked a long time in problem resolution for the phone company, and I fixed problems all the time. Somebody had a problem, jobs break, that was my job to fix them. And I thought I was good at it. So in my personal life, I was miscontrolled, fixing it out, helper, want to help everybody. I wanted things to go my way. I felt like I knew what needed to be done. I had a good life, a good husband, good children. Everything was good. Good job. We had made changes in our food situation, so we were eating good. I was learning how to cook good recipes.
I grew up in a family of teachers, educators. My dad was an educator, school principal. My mom a teacher, my sister was a teacher, one of the sisters was a teacher. Therefore, education was very important in my house. My dad was the law. He ruled with an iron fist, my way or the highway, and I understood that.
Back when we grew up, parents were the authorities, and you didn't disrespect your parents. You didn't say anything smart to them, because otherwise they put you in your place. Okay, back then, my family was very stern. Now my mom would play around with us. My dad, if he said something, you did it.
I learned pretty quickly that it was better to follow the rules and not have issues oftentimes.
So with him growing up to learn to be quiet and not question things, it reflected itself even as with him being an adult. He still had that same attitude because that's the way he grew up.
My parents played a significant role and authority in my life. In essence, if you love me, do what I say do. I tried my best to do what they said do. My father worked many jobs. He had day jobs, night jobs, weekend jobs. When my mother was diagnosed with cancer, she had a surgery, and I was at home with her, taking care of her, attending to her various needs. Those were the memories that I have of my mother more so than the earlier years. Those last years really made an impression upon me.
When I think about my childhood, I have some wonderful memories. And it was 7 children, mama and dad. And we had fun. We played in the yard. But my dad was a Baptist preacher, and I grew up during the time of the civil rights movement in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama area. And my dad became one of the civil rights leaders. So he was gone a lot. He had a church. He had members. So as a child, I felt like my dad was not there. The first crisis for my life came in a year, I think somewhere around 1995, when my first husband, we ended up starting a real estate company. I got my real estate license. He got his. He became successful over the Waterworks Board on the Real Estate Commission. But he started fooling around. He's got the big head. And he stopped taking me and the girls anywhere. So I took my daughters on a cruise, and when we came back, he had moved out. I was totally devastated. Took my name off the real estate company, took the money out of our account. I knew he was fooling around. I put up with that. Married him when he didn't have anything. He was a disabled veteran. We had to live in my mom and dad basement because we didn't have anything. But once he got successful, just kicked me to the curb. So I was hurt because I was expecting him as my husband to look out for me, to take care of me, to be honest with me, and to be there. My attitude about marriage is to death do us part. And I expected him to be there for me because he took that vow just like I did. Start having pity parties where I would sit, I'd go to work, come home, sit and eat my chips, my cookies, my sodas, ice cream. And one day I'm sitting on my bed. I had been divorced from my first husband for about maybe 5 years. Maybe about 4 or 5 years. And I was praying, and the Lord, and I was having my pity parties about why you let this happen to me, why God, why. And this little voice says to me, okay, you've had enough pity parties. It's time to get up and go out and help other people. There are folks in worse condition than you are. Help them. I said, but he took everything. I don't have any money. I don't have this. Use what you have. It don't take a lot. And I'm like, oh. I started doing ministries for senior citizens. I would take them food. I'd call and check on them, take them to the store. I would just do things for them. I'm at church one day, and I see Ben up front at the altar call. And this man was crying like a baby. And I'm like, what's wrong with Ben? Because he usually don't have much emotion. And the girl was like, you don't know? I said, no, what happened? She said his wife left him with 3 little girls. What?
I was divorced from my first wife in 1998. And I married my current wife of 26, almost 27 years, about 10 months after that divorce came through. There was a lot of upheaval during that time, dealing with a blended family, an ex-spouse. And as a result, because I didn't know how to communicate my emotion, I didn't know how to handle stress.
You know, in my marriage during those times, I thought Ben should be the one that would stand and say to his ex-wife, no, this is my wife. You can't do that. You talk to her, or you talk to both of us if you want to do something, not just to me. But, and I was disappointed that he couldn't do that. But he was doing the best he could do at that particular time. He felt like he was keeping the peace when he didn't disagree with her, when he just agreed with what she said, because he knew she could get really upset. He was kind of caught in the middle, because he had this emotional me on one side, then he has this emotional her on the other side, and this calm man in the middle. So he was really caught in the middle with these 2 emotional women.
I went to the doctor and was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, ulcers on your colon, in 1998. The doctor told me there's no cure, and I think that was the case in 1998. Today, I believe there are drugs that can be taken that will manage it, but at the time, I didn't have that hope.
He was very sick, but the doctors pretty much said they didn't know what the cause was and that it was no cure for it.
I said, I'll start investigating natural remedies. This is what I told the doctor. And the doctor said, no natural remedies. That will make matters worse. Come to me every 6 months and have a colonoscopy so when it turns cancerous, I can fix it. We can cut it out. As he said that, in my mind I was thinking, I'm not going to see you again. And I didn't.
When we look at how we function and the causes of dysfunction and disease, often the viewpoint that we have, especially from the medical field, is that it just happened by chance. That I don't know why that happened, but now you have it, and so let's deal with the effect.
Every effect must have a cause, and every cause will produce an effect. There is a law of cause and effect, and the law of cause and effect is fixed. There's nothing that we can do about it. And so there is, in reality, nothing that is by chance. There is always a cause for everything that happens. Chance is simply the idea that the effect came without a cause. And so that's simply a figment of a delusion. It's a figment of a human mind, this idea of chance. And so when we take that general principle and now we apply it to anything, we recognize that also disease is not by chance. There is no chance when it comes to disease. There is always a cause, or there may be multiple factors involved in it, but there must be a cause. Disease never comes as a result of chance.
So identifying why the condition is there, what is the cause, I think is the most important role of a physician, because there can be different causes. If I fall and injure my knee, that's not a spiritual cause. The injury was a physical injury. Now, if years go by and it's not healing, maybe there is a spiritual issue at play, because the function of my body, the healing mechanism, the recovery mechanism of my body isn't working right. So we do need to look at both the body and the mind when we're looking at the cause of disease, but we can't say it came about by chance. In the medical field, we look at associations, we look at risk factors, but we can't identify the cause.
Ulcerative colitis is an autoimmune condition. It's ulcers on the colon in essence, but what it amounts to is bloody stool that during a time of a really severe flare-up, anytime I ate anything, within minutes, I was going to have to get to the restroom because diarrhea and bloody diarrhea. I'm always checking out where is the closest restroom, okay? And that was my life during that time.
As I began to learn more about how we function and the cause of dysfunction, many challenges arose, and there's some that I still struggle with. And I think a lot of it is based on the educational foundation that I started with. It's hard to change your way of looking at things when you've always looked at it in a certain way. I had always looked at the physical being the cause of the problem, that it's something outside that's attacking the body, and your best response to that is to defend the body. After practicing medicine for many years and seeing that I wasn't really addressing the issues, all I was doing was helping with the effects, I wanted to find more. And I learned about, the benefits of natural remedies and diet and exercise and water and sunlight and, the principles of health that we often learn and teach. And I learned those things, and I thought, this is the answer. This is what I've been looking for. And so I would talk to them about, the reason you're sick is because you're not eating right, or you're not exercising consistently enough, you're not drinking enough water, and I would be listing all these things that they need to do and change, believing that this would fix the problem. This was the cause. And I never really saw the fruits from that approach that I was hoping to have.
Prior to then, I was living a relatively healthy life, an athlete, practicing just staying in shape, working out, diet fairly good. But once I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I became a little bit more focused on diet and trying to understand what might trigger, if there was a trigger related to it. I did see results with natural remedies, but not like you would expect. A part of refining my lifestyle, I started taking digestive enzymes with meals. I bought into the idea that When you cook foods, you don't have as many of the enzymes as you would. They're denatured to some extent. So I supplemented it. I bought into the fact that I needed to take probiotics. So I started taking them. True enough, the first 2 flare-ups when I got on the regimen of digestive enzymes and the probiotics, no symptoms. And as with any drug medication, when you take it and use the bottle up, you decide, okay, I'm healed, I'm good. No more symptoms, I must be fine.
Anytime he would get in a stressful situation, like one time at his job, he had an employee that was very stressful. People would call him narcissist. He was her supervisor, but it was very stressful because he couldn't do anything right. It was always problems. And he started taking it personal. So his colon showed him he was taking it personal. So all his symptoms started coming back. And we were doing everything we could that usually work on his symptoms, but it was not helping.
I didn't realize that the flare-ups were a result of stress. I didn't know how to handle it. As a child, I was taught to keep it bottled up, don't express your emotions, just let it ride through. And because of that, I just couldn't manage stress. But what I've learned is stress is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Stress is like the waves of life. Each one of us must become a surfer in order to navigate those waves. You cannot get past it. You can't go bury yourself in a hole, live in a cave, and that's it, to avoid stress. Life happens. Stress is real.
What about the mind's impact upon disease? I didn't see it very much in my earlier career because my earlier career was emergency medicine. And in ER, again, you have people that are coming in, gunshot wounds, stabbings, car accidents, traumas, other things of that nature. And so I was dealing with a lot of those things, and those, they have very real physical components to them. You have a physical bullet that's going through a physical body, and you have physical damage and so on, and you have a physical knife that goes into a physical neck, and there's the trauma that's associated with it. And so I didn't see the whole mind connection with the body and disease very well earlier on. I just didn't have the opportunity of seeing it. But when I transitioned to start having a family practice, because I became director of emergency medicine and family practice, and then I started having patients from a family practice standpoint, then I had patients that were coming back to me again and again. I had a little bit more time with patients, but it wasn't until I transitioned into lifestyle medicine, where I had a significant amount of time with patients, that I really began to understand the connection between the mind and the body, because now I had time to talk to patients. I had time to ask them questions. As I had that opportunity with 1 patient and 2 patients and 10 patients and 100 patients, and it grew from there, then I began to see much, much more clearly that there is a significant relationship between what an individual thinks and the diseases that develop in their bodies and what things that they're susceptible to. And that understanding has grown. And it's still in the process of growing. I mean, I'm still in the process of learning. One of the objections that people may have is that, okay, well, it sounds like you might be blaming the individual. If the issue is coming from the mind and the disease is developing in the body, then, are you blaming the individual for causing the disease? Now, clearly, nobody else can cause disease in my body from their mind, right? Only I can create disease in my body from my mind. It's only by my thinking, not by somebody else's thinking, that I can become ill. I should put it this way: an individual is not guilty for that. Are they responsible? Yes, they're responsible in that they're the one that did it. They're not guilty because they weren't aware that they were doing it or how they were doing it. we can reflect on things. We can try to think about, okay, well, what was I thinking at that time, or how was I responding, and so on. And we can bring that to consciousness so that we can actively deal with it. And that's important. It's necessary. So we can look back to something and unconsciously have had a number of thoughts in relation to, let's say, an event in our lives. And now we can go back and we can reflect. We can look at it and we can go, okay, yeah, that's why I was thinking, that's what I was thinking at the time. I might not have been aware that I was doing that. And so there's that capacity of the mind as well, to be able to bring into your conscious awareness things that you were not consciously aware of before. But the thought processes that lead to disease are unconscious. We're not aware. I do that naturally. I do it automatically, but I don't do it on purpose. And so we got the consequences of making a bad decision when we thought we were making a good decision. And that illustrates cause and effect in the context of delusion. My delusion might see things differently, but cause and effect still function according to reality. The body cannot be deceived into believing error is truth. It's only the mind that can be deceived. But when the mind is deceived, since it's the controller of the body, it's going to manifest that deception in terms of dysfunction in the body. And it will particularly do so when the delusion causes me to think that I am personally at loss in a certain situation. I'm not being loved, I'm not being respected, I'm not being understood, I'm being rejected, I'm being abandoned, I'm being abused, and so on and so forth. And that is happening to me, and so I am at loss. And when I'm in that condition of loss, then the mind is going to put pressure on the body, and it's going to change how it controls or regulates the body, and eventually the body is going to manifest dysfunction associated with it.
I have to take control of my stress. And part of that comes from understanding that people are doing the best they can typically. In many cases, it may not even be intentional what they're doing. It's just who they are. If I think about it in the sense that it's personal, now I have issues. And I may not really think it's personal, but my body always lets me know, oh, you're taking it personal, and I'll let you know.
And once he said, Lord, I'm sorry for taking it personal. That's your child. You love her. I love her. So you deal with it. I'm giving it to you. He changed his total attitude. His symptoms totally went away. It was nothing we did.
This situation is beyond me. It's not mine to control or deal with. You take it and deal with it. This person is your child. You deal with them. My hands are off. I'm done. And once I said that, my body went, it's all good now. I had a peace to come over me once I relinquished that attitude of, I'm going to be God in this person's life. Once I let that idea go, my body went, that feels so much better.
In 2020, I ended up going to visit a daughter. She was having one-day surgery. And I went to help out, to kind of just be with her and help her. And before that, I was healthy, running around, doing everything I wanted to do, Energizer Bunny, and just enjoying life. I'm sensitive to smells and chemicals. So when I laid in my daughter's bed, I smelled these perfume smells, and I was like, ooh, that's not good. But I said, well, one night it's shouldn't be a problem. So I slept in the bed, and the next morning I felt kind of itchy, a little funny, but I just said, I'm going to go home and I'll be fine. Went to see another daughter, and she put some new products on my head that she was trying, and I tried those. But on the way home, my home was about an hour and a half from my daughter's. So on the way home, I started just feeling more itchy. My head was itching. So as soon as I got home, I took a shower. It didn't stop the itching. I took another shower, washed my hair like maybe 4 or 5 times, and my head was just itching and my body just felt funny. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. I took some charcoal to try to get it out my system, and that didn't help. I got in the sauna because we had a sauna. I was just doing things for the next couple of days, just trying to feel better. But I just wasn't getting any better. So finally decided, let me just go to urgent care. This was like maybe about 3 or 4 days later. And she said I had an allergic reaction to something. She gave me some medication to take. Eventually, the symptoms became where I would just break out. My face was inflamed. It was huge. I had rashes on my body, on my back, on my legs. It got painful to sleep. So I ended up calling a lifestyle center, Uchee Pines, in Alabama, and I was there for 3 weeks. But when I came back, I did everything that they told me to do, and I was getting better. My symptoms were getting better. I could walk, I could talk, I could do things. But I started doing the routines that they told me to do. But because of my situation, my body was just like, no, I can't accept it. So all of the good things they had me to do, I just kept getting worse. My voice started leaving, more bumps all over me, boils, blisters all over my body. It was painful to sleep. I was losing hair.
She couldn't raise her arms higher than her shoulders. At the time of diagnosis, she couldn't swallow. Her throat muscles were so weak that she couldn't swallow. It didn't necessarily hurt, I don't think, but she couldn't drink water.
I could hardly walk. I was down to like 96 pounds. From 100 and like maybe 40 or something, 130, 140. But I lost a lot of weight. And this was like within a short period, less than a month's time after I left the lifestyle center. But it ended up, my husband was like, this is not good, because I was really going down fast. He picked me up, put me in the car, and took me to the hospital, to the emergency room. And this was right in the midst of COVID. And both of us, it was a quiet ride to the hospital, because most of the time they wouldn't even let your loved ones go in the hospital with you. But I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything for myself.
My wife had trouble communicating. Again, throat muscles were a problem, so I did a lot of communicating for her while she was in the hospital for those 10 days. How was I really feeling inside? Confused, scared, fearful. But I didn't want her to see it. I wanted her to see rock solid. I'm the man. We're going to make this.
The doctor in the emergency room, when she saw me and heard my symptoms, she said, I know exactly what's wrong with you, but I'm not going to tell you till we do some tests, and then I can tell you what's going on with you.
My wife was diagnosed in the year 2020 with a disease called dermatomyositis.
So basically, it was shutting down. My body was attacking itself, so it was shutting down all my muscles. My nerves were affected in it. My skin. Now, I've always had beautiful skin. Everybody would always compliment my skin. I always looked so young. Like, even though my husband is younger than me, folks would always say, well, you look younger. And I just felt like I was going to be like that till I died, okay? But because of that illness, I started looking like an old lady, lost my hair, sores, and discolored skin. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want anybody to see me. When they told me what I had, I was kind of relieved to kind of have an idea of what was going on, because I've been going through this since, this was I started getting sick in February of 2020, so this was in the late part of June of 2020 when I finally knew what was going on with me. It was also a disappointment because, I'm this lady who trying to eat right and exercise, being exercised. We got plenty sunshine. We were doing all of those things that we thought we needed to. And then here I am, the one looking. Not only was I sick on the inside, but y'all, I looked sick. I didn't even want to see myself. So, and it was, I guess that was some pride in me. So yeah, it was a tough situation.
You'll have this for the rest of your life. Just come and let us do the treatments and we'll manage symptoms, was the word.
And now we have the damaged body, and now we apply the treatment. And the treatment can be natural, or they can be from pharmaceutical industry. Whatever we do as a treatment, if it's natural or not natural, it is not bringing healing. The only thing that brings healing and lasting thing is removing the cause. So if the cause is because I have guilt or I have accusations, because I see myself a victim, that cannot be changed by any remedy that is physical. We understand the cause, we work on the cause. If we have something to help to recover, we apply it, but our hope is not in the remedies. Our hope is in changing the cause so that we have a lasting result here.
We want healing, we want health, but health is never the purpose in itself. Health is just a means to fulfill the purpose of serving. I can change my diet for a selfish motivation, and then I eat the proper food and I sleep the proper amount of time and I do all the things in order to be healthy, that I can enjoy a better life myself.
They eventually told me I had lupus too. So I have lupus, and then they told me I had another one. They say autoimmune runs in pairs or groups. Then they said I had another one called Sjogren's, which affects your eyes because my eyes got into it. They started turning red and I couldn't see. I just had a lot of opportunities to grow.
I understood being a caregiver. I thought I was relaxed. My mind said, you're relaxed. It's okay. You can do this. Listen closely for what the doctors have to say. After 7 days, 8 days in, they decided we need to put in a feeding tube. Oh no. And when the nurse did training on the feeding tube, they talked about what happens if the feeding tube gets blocked or if there's backup and you don't want to lose any gastric juices from her stomach, so you've got to do this. That was a ton of pressure on me. And I knew my wife was scared. I really had to focus and overcome my personal fears. If she was going to have nutrition, if she was going to live, it was up to me.
Once I got home from the hospital, I couldn't do anything. To show you how bad it was, they had to put a feeding tube in, and I had to I couldn't even, my muscles were so weak, I couldn't even feed myself.
Before that experience, I called Anita the Energizer Bunny. I don't know if you're familiar with the commercial, but the Energizer Bunny is beating a drum with the battery and just going. That was my wife. She was my Energizer Bunny. Therefore, this experience was a whole different thing for her. She couldn't prepare food. She couldn't clean the house. All she could do was wait on the next feeding with the feeding tube. And initially, she couldn't even do that because the feeding tubes given to us in the hospital required a lot more hand strength than she had. When I ordered new feeding tubes, she could then feed herself, and that gave her a sense of freedom. She didn't like where she was, but we had done all the things that we could to make life a little bit more simple. We even had to crush any pills that she had to take. We had a pill crusher, and we had to crush them and give them to her through her feeding tube. I was busy running around the house, putting bags away, getting all of the feeding tube supplies put in position, trying to get everything straight and lined up, because I figured she was going to be hungry and I was going to have to deal with the feeding tube that night. And it was going to be my first time doing it without the nurse's assistance or being there to coach me. But I heard a small voice say, "Stop. Go check on your wife. Put everything down. She's most important right now." I did. I stopped and we talked. And I reaffirmed my love for her and that I was going to be there with her every step of the way. And it was going to be okay. We will survive this.
I felt loved from him. So that was the bright spot in it, because he was right there for me.
She later validated that, yes, I was starting to lose hope and to give up. There was a lot going back and forth to the doctor, getting various treatments not working well, watching her go through the reactions to some of the treatments from the hospital. But overall, I will look at it and recognize that because her situation was acute, she needed the care at that time that the hospital provided, although the hospital did not provide a root cause.
I was not able to try any natural remedies because I was too sick. We were just trying to get me at a baseline where I was just able to sleep and able to eat, just basic functions. It was nothing extra, because just trying to do the feeding tube and the medicines and all the other things that we were doing, it was just too much for me, for Ben to have to do. And then he was still trying to work. So it was just mostly me trying to get to a point where I could do some things for myself. So we had a physical therapist had to come to the house, occupational therapist, a speech therapist. They were doing treatments on my throat and trying to help me speak. Because I didn't even know if I'd be able to talk again. So when I talk, I'm happy. I count my blessings just because I can talk, because I don't have sores all over my face and skin like I had before, and I can actually, I wake up in the morning and I'd be like, "Ooh, thank you, I could sleep," because it was many nights I could not sleep. Once we got back from the hospital and we got back to my house, our home, I started having these shaking spells. And I would just get to just shaking all over. My body would be shaking. I couldn't walk because I was shaking so bad. And ended up one day, it got so bad they had to put me in an ambulance and take me back to the hospital. So they ran all kind of tests. They couldn't figure out what was going on. So then I go back to the house, and it was affecting my sleep even more. I would go for like days, 2 days at a time, and couldn't sleep. So one day I was at the house, and I'm just shaking, and we had an appointment he was taking me to. And we went, and when we get there, the shaking stopped. And I was fine at my appointment. We go back home. As soon as I walked back in the house, the shaking started again. So I told my husband, it's got to be something in this house that's making me shake. And I say, I grab my bag, my purse, and a few clothes, and I say, I'm not coming back in this house because there's something bothering me. So at that point is when I left, and we had a mobile home on our property. So he cleaned it up, and we pretty much moved into there. And we called a company to do air remediation. And they came in and they found mold up in our air conditioning unit up in the attic. And the guy said that it's blowing mold throughout the house. So because of COVID and me being in the house all the time, that was just adding to my situation, making it worse, messing with my nerves. He fixed the problem up in the attic. They cleaned up the vents, the vents that the air came through, cleaned the walls. We got a clean air machine, put it all through the house. We did ozone. We did a lot of things in that house. And once I went back to the house, I didn't have any problems. We had to buy mostly new things because a lot of the things out the house, my body would know if it had been in a mold-infected place. I couldn't tell if it was old mildew or something. I could walk in a building and my body would just start shaking. And I'm like, oh, I got to get out of here. And I would go running the opposite way. I was just that sensitive. When I was at the Lifestyle Center, there was this doctor there, and he was talking about why people are sick. And he said 90% of our diseases come from the way we think. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then he was talking about people that control situations and how they thought they were God. And I was like, this is a weird kind of thought, because I had never really thought about those kind of things. And so he told us that we were stewards and we didn't own anything. So after the class was over, I went up to him and I said, yeah, I know I'm a steward. I have 6 daughters. And I was a good mama because I'm a good steward. Those God's children, but I'm just a steward. And I said, I made sure my girls didn't break anything. I protected them. I made sure they got good education so they could get good jobs. I did this. I took them here. He said, oh, so you think you God? And I was like, who is this little man? I said, he doesn't know me like that. And I was very offended by what he said.
Well, let's look at the effects in the life of an individual who, 1, believes that they're a creator, and 2, believes that they're a creature. 1, they believe that they're a God, and 2, believe that they're a child of God. And as a God, I am the owner, and so things belong to me, people, places, time, capacities, qualities, and so on. And as the owner, I try to protect these things. I try to keep the things. I try to make sure that I don't lose the things.
If the house burns down, then I've lost something that was mine. But if my identity is I'm a child of God, and this is his house, and he's in charge of it, and it's his to take care of, and he's in control of the effects. If it burns down, then it's not my loss. It was his loss. It was his house.
So our reactions towards the negative events, like getting a diagnosis, like having cancer or other diseases, like autoimmune disease, how we call them, inflammations in our bones or joints, or we are suddenly confronted with the death of a loved ones. Now, in the first moment, we might just react according to the deception of our hearts to become scared. But we must immediately understand, okay, that's the wrong way to think. And yes, that the heart is faster than reason, but now in reason we can approach the situation, we can go to God and say, okay, help me how to adjust this thing so that I don't get into a deeper trouble than before. But we need to get out understanding, okay, it's not my life, it's not about me. And if I understand it's not about me, I can see, okay, this disease will help me, this event will help me to see how dependent I am on that circumstance, if I need a human being around me for my well-being, all those things, I can then remove the cause that is in the heart and replace that with the truth that I'm a child of God, so that I'm I'm out of that situation as fast as possible. Then I can relax and wait the healing.